100 days in prison and feeling a little down and scared. And now we're going back to a flashback. It's April 1935 and spring has come to Hamburg. Helmut hears it in the crackling gray ice floats that drift through the rivers and narrow canals. He sees it in the mallard ducks that bob bottoms up in Allister Lake and in the return of the robin. Helmut sees spring in Moody's eyes too. She has a new boyfriend, the tall, dark-haired, mustachioed Hugo Hubner. Moody stays out late dancing with Hugo, and some mornings when Helmut awakens, Moody is humming in the kitchen and Hugo is sitting at their table. He wears his brown and black SS uniform with its blue collar insignia that says he's a Rattenführer, a non-commissioned corporal. Before long, the Rattenführer is sitting at their table every morning, taking up all the air in the flat. He stretches out, clasps his hand behind his back, elbows wide, and crosses his gleaming black jack boots at the ankles, saying, "The Führer this and the Führer that." Without asking, Hugo turns in Moody's old radio for a new People's receiver, the Volksempfänger VE301. It's a cheap brown plastic radio with a simple dial and no shortwave, so it only receives German stations. "See?" Hugo says proudly. "The 301 stands for January 30, the day Hitler became our leader. Thanks to the Führer, every German can afford a new radio. All of Germany can tune in to the Führer." It grinds Helmut's stomach the way Hugo makes all the decisions as if he's the father. He decides what Moody will make for breakfast and dinner and asks Helmut if his homework is done. And now Hugo has even decided on the radio. Helmut cannot understand what Moody sees in a man like Hugo. But Hugo seems here to stay, and stay he does. By 1937, Hugo has moved in with them, and one morning he announces in his booming voice that the flat is too small. "There's not enough Lebensraum." Hitler's favorite word for living space. "All Germans need Lebensraum," Hugo says. "I have found us a new flat, Emma. We're moving." And just like that, Moody packs up everything, the dishes, the pots and pans, the uneven chairs, the brown wooden table, the worn armchair, the scratched up black oak table lamp, the 2 wooden bedsteads, and they move to a first floor apartment in Stratenhaus 42. Helmut misses the comfort of his grandparents next door, their quiet flat where he doesn't feel as though he's holding his breath, where he can escape to do his homework in peace. It is different for Hans and Gerhard. They're old enough to bicycle with their friends to Cuxhaven on North Sea, where they camp overnight and dive for mussels that they cook on the beach. But Moody is happy, happier than Helmut ever remembers. She sings as she puts away the dishes, stacks the pots and pans beneath the sink, polishes the furniture. Her eyes glow as she tells Helmut that everything will work out just fine, that Hugo wants to be a father to him. "Wait and see," she says. "We will marry, and when we do, Hugo will adopt you. You will be his son." The thought turns Helmut cold inside. "I'm 12 going on 13, he says. "I don't need a father anymore." "Every boy needs a father," says Moody. "Gerhard and Hans do just fine without one," says Helmut, "and so do I." "Just promise me you'll give Hugo a chance," says Moody. "He wants what's best for you." The sensation of unease rises in Helmut's stomach, swims about. He doesn't like Hugo. He resents his presence in the flat, but he can't tell Moody no. And so he says yes, for Moody's sake. In 1938, Helmut graduates from primary school and starts at the Oberau, a middle school in Brachtum. On his first day, Helmut carries his satchel into the classroom and sets it on a desk near the window. The schoolroom is plain, but the wall paint is fresh and the wooden floorboards newly oiled and the desks worn. The room feels well lived in. A bright swastika flag hangs above the teacher's chair. Brand new textbooks sit stacked on the desk. The other boys file in, most wearing Hitler Youth uniforms. The classroom grows noisy and Helmut feels lost in the din. He doesn't know anyone, so he prefers to stay off to himself, to take it in. Suddenly, the classroom door slams shut, and the room falls silent. A short, trim man with a fashionably slicked brown hair walks crisply to the front. He has wide shoulders and muscular arms. He turns on his heel and faces the class at attention like a soldier. The boys leap to their feet. They all shoot their hands forward and cry out, "Heil Hitler!" It never feels right to say Heil Hitler instead of good morning, but that's the rule, so Helmut follows. The man raises his dark eyes to look at Adolf Hitler's portrait, as if invoking the Führer's blessing over his class. He then lifts his arm nonchalantly, a bored wave it seems, and returns the Hitler salute. "Be seated," he says, and then he introduces himself as their new teacher, Winke. "An exciting year awaits you," he says. "Never has there been a more exciting time to be young and to be a student. Thanks to the Führer, you will learn the new thinking in Germany." He thumps the textbooks with his knuckles. "The National Socialist Education Program surpasses anything of its kind in history. You see, my boys, the reality is, it is your job to shape the fate of the fatherland." Winke picks up a stack of books and passes them out. "We will begin our study with the unlikeliness of men," he says. This makes Helmut squirm inside, the same way he squirms when Hugo laughs over cartoons that depict Jews in an ugly manner. But the lesson isn't about race. It's about the different mental and spiritual traits of men, traits such as courage and honor and duty. These are questions that Helmut had often pondered at night when he lies in bed. Helmut grows more interested and listens intently. For some, courage and loyalty are nothing but great stupidity, says Winke. They would rather be live cowards than dead heroes. Helmut reflects on those words. He knows he's loyal, but he wonders if he's also brave, if he has what it takes to be a hero. Winke continues. "Others, however, cannot live without honor and prefer death to cowardice. They want their death to stand for something." He picks up a large scrolled print. He unrolls it, holds it out for the class to see. Helmut is intrigued by the sinking ship, by the drowning sailor who clings to the naval flag, by the debris floating about. Even as the sea rages around him, the brave sailor keeps the flag safely above him and the water. "This painting is called Fulfilling His Last Duty," says Winke. "It illustrates one's duty to rise high the flag and to never let it fall. This is what it means to be a good German. A good German is loyal, honorable, brave, courageous, willing to sacrifice himself for his country." Helmut knows these things. He knows that a good German puts loyalty and self-sacrifice ahead of all personal interests. But there is something about the drowning naval soldier that bothers Helmut. He raises his hand to speak. Winke calls on him, and Helmut stands. "Wouldn't it be better, sir, to grab a piece of the floating wood, even if it means letting go of the flag? This way you might live to fight another day for your country." This enrages Winke. He pinches his lips shut for a long moment, and when he finally speaks, his words are clipped and cutting. "You have completely failed to understand a soldier's duty. The greatest honor for any soldier is to die for his country, rather than to let the flag fall. For the flag represents the fatherland, and if the flag falls, Germany falls. Is that what you want?" "No, sir," says Helmut, and he feels embarrassed and confused. "You are a troublemaker. I should mark this down in your party record book, but I will not. Instead, you have earned the class an extra homework assignment." Winke announces that the class must write a 500-word essay with the title, "Adolf Hitler, Savior of the Fatherland." Helmut's classmates cast angry glances at Helmut as they snap open their notebooks and copy down the title. Helmut tries to make sense of what just happened. He opens his notebook, dutifully copies down the assignment as anger swells inside of him. Anger that Winke misunderstood his question. Anger that Winke now thinks him a coward. Anger and humiliation beat inside Helmut with a pulse all their own. That night, Helmut sits at the kitchen table, feeling dark, chewing on his pencil. His paper is blank except for its title and the opening sentence. It wasn't fair, the way Winke twisted Helmut's question, the way Winke made the whole class suffer. Now this entire class is angry at Helmut, and who can blame them? Helmut could kick himself for raising his hand and asking that question. Hugo Hubner comes up from behind. He rests his hand on Helmut's shoulder, startling him. Hugo's hand feels gentle but strong. Hugo leans over Helmut's shoulder and reads the first sentence out loud. God has blessed our fatherland by giving us Adolf Hitler. He squeezes Helmut's shoulder in approval. A good start, my boy. Helmut cringes. He hates it when Hugo calls him my boy. His homework mocks God, says Gerhard matter-of-factly. He doesn't look up from his physics book. Now 17, Gerhard has begun classes at the Technium, where he studies electrical engineering. He's seldom home anymore, since he also works for Mützenfabrik, a factory that makes stiff military hats, the kind with a visor in front. The long hours and hot, smelly work make him tired and cross. Helmut wishes his older brother were at home too, to say what he thinks, but Hans is a shipyard building apprentice at the dockyards, and Helmut rarely sees him at all. God and country go together, says Hugo. They do, says Gerhard, but that essay isn't about God and country. It makes an idol out of Hitler, and anyone who makes an idol out of a leader mocks God. It does not mock God, says Hugo. The fatherland is a gift to us from God, and God has blessed the fatherland by giving us a leader like Hitler, who has the strength and resolve to lead Germany out of this mess. You should honor your country, and that means honoring your leaders. Doesn't that church of yours teach you anything? Helmut feels anger rise inside at Hugo's biting remark. Hugo isn't a Mormon. How dare he criticize their church? Hugo doesn't even go to church, not even when Moody please. Gerhard's eyes brighten the way they always do when he stands up to Hugo. I do honor my country, Hugo, the way my church tells me I should. Every day I honor my country by obeying, honoring, and sustaining its laws. I am a good German, no matter what I think of the Führer. Are you insulting the Führer? Demands Hugo. No, says Gerhard. I am insulting that essay. Helmut can't take their argument anymore. He can't afford a bad grade or a bad mark in his party record book because that would keep him from getting a good job later on. And so, before Hugo can respond, Helmut smacks his hand against the table. It's my homework, he shouts, and I'll write it the way I need to write it. Hugo and Gerhard stop arguing. They're surprised at Helmut's outburst. A savior is somebody who rescues someone or something from harm or danger, Helmut begins. That's what Hitler has done. He has rescued the fatherland from poverty, unemployment, and inflation, just as he promised he would. Hugo's eyes widen with pleasure, but Gerhard doesn't say a word. He stacks his books loudly and stalks to the door. He yanks the door handle hard and then lets the door slam behind him. The slamming door sounds like a pistol shot. Helmut looks to Moody, who is standing in the kitchen doorway. He wants her to say something, to defend Gerhard, because that's what mothers do for their children, but she doesn't. Suddenly, Helmut can't remember the last time she spoke up for one of them. Hugo always has the final word, and now Helmut feels just as cowardly he didn't speak up for Gerhard either. Moody's face crumples. She lowers herself to the couch, buries her face in her hands. Why can't you two just let each other be? Why must you fight? Hugo sits beside her, draws her to him, kisses the top of her head. Men like to fight, he says. That's the way we are. It's in our blood. But don't worry. Gerhard will come around. You'll see. And then, to Helmut, Hugo beams. But you, my boy, have the right attitude. A born leader, that's what you are. A man to watch. You will go far. Helmut blocks out the sound of Hugo's praise. He doesn't feel like a leader, a man to watch. He squirms inside as he stares at the words, God has blessed our fatherland by giving us Adolf Hitler. Is Gerhard right? Does it make an idol out of Hitler? Does it mock God? Every day, it seems, the Nazis hang more portraits of Adolf around town. The town squares and buildings are renamed after him. They evoke his name in praise and even in prayers and giving thanks to the Führer for getting Germany back on its feet, for jobs, for the new factories that produce everything from tanks and airplanes and guns to the people's radio. Helmut knows he's supposed to support his country and its leaders, and yet the Nazis feel dark and threatening too. Every day, it seems, the Nazis pass more laws against the Jews. Helmut sees the terrible signs that read Jewish swine and Jews out and Jews die. In school, Helmut must pass tests that show he understands the differences between inferior races such as Jews and the superior Aryan race. How does this such meanness and hate build a better Germany? Helmut sits at the table, tapping his pencil impatiently as he wrestles with his feelings. Finally, he pushes them down and begins to write. He doesn't think about the meaning behind the words, just writes what Ervinke wants to hear, writes what will earn high marks. The inside of Helmut's head feels like crashing cymbals. The words, the sentences waver, bang about, come back together again until at last he's finished. He stares at the handwritten pages and feels worse than a coward. He feels like a traitor to his brother, but mostly a traitor to himself. A traitor to his true feelings. That night, Gerhardt's side of the bed remains empty. Helmut turns on his stomach, then flops back again, thinks about Gerhard and how sure he is of everything, even what he wants to do with his life. As Helmut drifts off to sleep, he wonders about his own future and what he's been put on this earth to do. Several days later, Ervinke returns the graded essays. Helmut has earned a high mark with only a brief comment, "Well done." He stuffs the essay into his satchel and heads home. The satchel feels heavy, but not from the weight of the books. It's heavy from the weight of the graded paper, the weight of Vinke's praise. All right, that's it, guys. See you next time.